Well, happening now, you just heard one of the Boston Marathon bombing suspects is dead. A massive manhunt going on right now for the other suspects.
Investigators think these two shot and killed a police officer at MIT last night, then started a chase, even threw explosives out the windows. Another man in this, or one of these men rather, in this shootout died. There is an awful lot to sort through this morning. We're going to get a live report right now from CBS's Susan McGinnis, who is in Boston. Is going to give us the latest that she has. Good morning to you, Susan.
Well, Boston remains on edge this morning as a manhunt continues for one of the suspects of the Boston Marathon bombings. One suspect remains alive and remains at large. Explosions and gunshots pierced the early morning hours as police closed in on the suspects in the Boston Marathon bombing. Officers are going door to door looking for one of the men who they say opened fire on them early this morning.
We are asking you to stay indoors, to stay in your homes for the time being.
Police say this man, the man identified as suspect number 2 in the Boston Marathon bombings, is still on the loose.
We believe this to be a terrorist. We believe this to be a man who's come here to kill people.
Suspect number 1, the man in the black hat, is now reportedly dead from multiple gunshot wounds and possibly even blast wounds.
An officer has been shot.
The events began late Thursday night when 2 men allegedly shot and killed a police officer at MIT. They then reportedly stole a car at gunpoint and headed to Watertown. That's where police caught up with them and a gunfight ensued. The suspects reportedly used other weapons against the cops during the chase.
During the course of that pursuit, several explosive devices were discharged from the car at the police officers.
A transportation police officer was hit during the gunfight and is at the hospital in critical condition. And we have learned the 2 suspects are foreign nationals from Chechnya or Turkey. One of them is Zokar Zanev, is the closest I can come right now, 19-year-old, and the other is his brother, 20 years old. They've come from Cambridge. They have been in the U.S. for at least a year. Live in Boston, Susan McGinnis, back to you.
All right, thank you very much for the latest, Susan. We'll check in with you in about another hour. Also, federal investigators say these 2 men were in the U.S. legally. Now, as the manhunt continues, state officials suspended all public transportation in and around the Boston area. Public school there has also been canceled. And as you heard, that town of Watertown is basically on lockdown. As a reminder, 3 people died in the bombing, more than 180 hurt when the bombs went off at the Boston Marathon on Monday. Elizabeth.
As we go through the day, we'll probably hear a lot more about what happened overnight and the latest developments. We will have them for you right here on News 13 and anytime on KRQE.com.
Search and rescue crews are still going door to door in a small town in Texas, hoping to find people alive after a fertilizer plant blew up there Wednesday night. Investigators still don't know exactly how many people died in the small town of West. It's about 20 miles north of Waco, a little south of Dallas. They have found as many as 10 bodies so far and think there are at least 6 more inside the plant. More than 160 people are hurt, and as you can see, a few square miles of that town literally flattened right now. That includes a school and a nursing home.
The apartment complex looks like it was a bombing site of an explosion, the kind that you see in Baghdad. It was utterly destroyed.
Anyone who grew up in a small town like West, they know that this tragedy has most likely hit every family.
Authorities don't know what caused this blast, but they do think it was an industrial accident and not anything criminal. And it was 20 years ago today that a 51-day standoff at the Branch Davidian compound near Waco, Texas ended in a deadly confrontation and fire. It had started back on February 28, 1994, when federal agents tried to arrest cult leader David Koresh for illegally having weapons. Then they got into a gun battle. 4 agents and 6 people in the cult were killed, a dozen others hurt. Agents retreated and negotiated a ceasefire to retrieve the people who were dead and hurt. Then on April 19th, federal agents attacked, this time with armored vehicles and tear gas. About 80 people died, including 25 children. That compound, as you might remember, went down in flames.
Here at home, firefighters have the Curtis wildfire in the Lincoln National Forest knocked down. About 100 acres of blackened trees and ash now cover the forest floor. It marks a spot near Mayhill where the fire started Wednesday afternoon. When Sky News 13 flew over it yesterday, fire crews were dealing with hot spots. At one point, high winds had been driving the flames and threatening about 20 homes. Everyone who had to be evacuated was allowed back into their homes Thursday morning.
A highly publicized bribery case against former Judge Michael Murphy ends with a watered-down plea deal. It was part of the pay-to-play scheme that led all the way to Governor Bill Richardson's office. Yesterday, Michael Murphy walked out of Las Cruces courthouse, where he used to be a judge. Said now he's on the other side of the law, a convicted criminal. He pled no contest to a misdemeanor charge of misconduct by a public official. Murphy was indicted on felony bribery charges back in 2011 after investigators say he bragged about paying $4 grand in campaign contributions to former Governor Bill Richardson in exchange for him getting on the bench. A grand jury says Murphy told a lawyer who wanted to be a judge that she could get a job as a judge too if she paid up. Murphy says that's not true though.
2 years ago, Michael Murphy was serving in this very courthouse as a judge and was giving the judiciary a bad name and a black eye.
Even though they had a strong case, the prosecutor says it was in everyone's best interest to strike a plea deal.
A drunk driver who killed a 2-year-old Albuquerque boy has also taken a plea deal. Mariano Salas was driving on Coors Boulevard last August when he crashed into the back of a car carrying 2-year-old Vicente Griego. Salazar drove off and hit another car before he was caught. Vicente was badly hurt and died a week later after being taken off life support. Yesterday, he pleaded no contest to DWI vehicular homicide and to leaving the scene of an accident. Vicente's family does not want other families to suffer the pain they still feel.
It should have never happened. This is a preventable crime, so please don't drink and drive, please.
Salas faces up to 6 years in prison when he is sentenced in a couple of weeks.
An old man is in a lot of trouble in Grant County, accused of taking deputies on a high-speed chase. Sheriff's deputies say this man, Francisco Jimenez, who is 85 years old, took off from the jail's parking lot Wednesday, started this chase at times. Deputies say they were going 120 miles per hour, and Jimenez was even waving at drivers as he passed them. Again, he's 85 years old. Deputies finally caught up with Jimenez and arrested him. They say he was just sitting in his car, very calmly, smoking a cigarette. Now, if you still have a ticket from those red light cameras that we used to have here in Albuquerque, you better pay up or else it could end up destroying your credit. A company called Credit Watch is now calling the 89,000 people who still haven't paid their red light tickets. And that company's vice president tells us it's now starting to report to credit bureaus. It's been doing this for the last 2 weeks. Now, since then, a lot more people have started to pay up to the tune of about $300,000. However, the rest of the tickets that have not been paid, just in Albuquerque in the area, they total $20 million.